you need to do is, how do you ensure that you reduce the dependence on one single entrance examination to decide the fate of the student? When you do that and you say this also has some kind of a weightage, this also has some kind of weightage, then people will have to do both ways.
Number one, when NTA says that we'll reconduct NEET, there'll be re-NEET. What is the guarantee this will not happen again if the same method is followed? Number one. Number two, do you feel that there is a very institutionalized form of corruption with the way with which papers are being leaked and exams are being conducted? How is it that it is so skewed in favor of seeker? Do you feel that the coaching cartel or the coaching mafia could have something to do with the manner in which these examinations are being conducted?
I don't have any doubt about that, because see, remember, the coaching cartels prosper only when the students succeed. And what we call in our industry, we call it topper farming, which means you produce one topper and farm it to about 10,000 students.
NEET exams have been cancelled again. NEET exams have been in controversy again. Papers have been leaked. This is all too familiar. The big question is the NTA, or the National Testing Agency, not capable of handling examinations, or does it not want to handle examinations? Is this a conspiracy? I don't know. I mean, this is too much of a coincidence, isn't it? I have with me Maheshwar Peri, sir, from Careers 360. Thank you very much. You've been very passionately raising your voice on the NEET-UG 2024 case, and subsequently most of the cases that where NTA has conducted its examination. And here we are once again. Peri, sir, first of all, your opening comments. What do you make of what is happening?
I think it's ridiculous that we don't learn our lessons from what happened in the past. We don't try to understand. We try to move on from a earlier problem by covering it up and not really trying to get deeper into what exactly happened, so that a similar thing doesn't repeat itself again. 2024, exactly the same scenario was there, and it's being repeated all over again. And if we don't again deal with it this time around, it will again repeat itself. The problem here is that in 24, if there was a white paper that was issued, or if there was a recommendation that was issued by the government and the investigative agencies, you wouldn't have seen this particular day. In 24, we tried to cover it up by saying that there was no paper leakage and it was only a grace mark issue that happened, which is not true actually, because it is just that the government did not want to go through the motions all over again. Which possibly is understandable also in a certain sense, that we were in the month of July that point in time when this entire thing broke up. Because last time, if you recall, Sanket, the problem came up after the results came, not when after the examination. So you're actually 1.5 months down the line before this whole thing happened. And so at that point in time, the government in its own wisdom would have said that, listen, it's too late for us and it might spoil an academic year of the students. So they moved on with that whole thing. But had they actually got deeper into it, then this wouldn't have come, for sure.
Peri sir, I want to know from you, what were the key recommendations after the NEET-UG 2024 matter reached the court? We heard so many things about the manner in which the exams were conducted, the bad way in which they were conducted, and a number of suggestions were made. I believe none of those suggestions have been implemented, and all of them are gathering dust.
No, I think there are two things to this. One is the recommendations that are at a structural level, and two is trying to dig deeper into the integrity of the people who are handling the examination. The second part of it has never seen the light of the day. None of us know. Like a typical committee, what do they recommend? They recommend that why don't you move to computer-based testing, because it's easier, because there is no physicality of a paper, so it doesn't pass through multiple hands, and to that extent, the chance of a leakage comes down dramatically. Right? Those are issues that they were all talking about. Even yesterday, I was speaking to the director at NTA, and he was also talking about the CBT versus pen and paper and those kind of things. Those are, recommendations that are slightly more fundamental. But the structural issue that we're dealing with, the other part of it which we talk of, is there an integrity issue in the conduct of the examination? Was anyone found lacking in integrity when they were conducting the examination? How did the paper leak happen? If so, where did it happen and how did you? That part of it, none of us know about it. In my opinion, NTA would have also had a report on that situation also, but it was not privy to public consumption. And which is where I personally think that you try to brush under the carpet the integrity of the examination side of it, because maybe we were too late in the day and then we didn't want to deal with that. And which is where we are seeing a similar thing repeat this year again.
Peri sir, there are many people who have often been dubbed cynical, but however, one does see the point that they're trying to make is that an organization like the National Testing Agency failing over and over again, and this is not the first, I don't know. I mean, the way things are going may not be the last also, where papers will be leaked, cancelled. So, number one, when NTA says that we'll reconduct NEET, there'll be re-NEET. What is the guarantee this will not happen again if the same method is followed? Number one. Number two, do you feel that there is a very institutionalized form of corruption with the way with which papers are being leaked and exams are being conducted? How is it that it happens over and over and over again?
So, again, let me answer it in two forms, Sanket. The first part of it is, whenever you have a physicality of a paper, the chance of its leakage is very high, because we're talking about 5,500 centers, printing presses, banks, security guards, exam centers. So there are multiple hands that the paper is passing through across 5,500 centers, mind you. Right? How does it work? The paper gets printed in a government printing press or a printing press which is supposed to be confidential. Then the paper is transported in a van to a bank, which is kept in a locker there. And then from the locker, it actually is opened a day before the exam. On the day of the examination, the examination center head, the bank manager, and the security guard and a board official go and procure the paper from the locker of the bank and then open it in front of the students. So that is the kind of process that we're dealing with. Now look at the physicality of the whole thing. That at a printing press, so many people, because it's not printed in one press, it's printed in multiple places. Then it gets transported through to 5,500 centers. The bank manager has access. Of course, the access is with not one person but 2-3 people. The physicality of it will always make it, amenable, or it will be difficult for you to control unless everyone who's dealing with it has high integrity. Because all it takes is the bank manager, the security person, and the center head to collude, and the paper is in your hands. As simple as that. And we're dealing with 5,500 such combinations, mind you, because 5,500 centers is what you have. The second part of it is the financial incentive for NEET is very, very high, because the fee that you get to pay if you're doing a public education of MBBS is about 5 lakh rupees. Versus when you deal with private, it's about 1.5 crore rupees. The incentive is such that even parents and families fall for it, because suddenly the 5 lakh becomes 25-30 lakh rupees, but it's not 1.5 crore, mind you. Right? The financial incentive for medical is extremely, extremely high. The imbalance is extremely, extremely high. So to that extent, everyone knows that if you have a paper in your hand, even if you pay 20 lakh rupees, you still save about 1.5 crore rupees on the other side. As long as you have that kind of an imbalance, which is not there in any other examination, mind you. In any other, for example, in JEE, there is no such incentive. Because what you pay in IIT is 25 lakh rupees. There are some good private engineering colleges which also pay, in JEE you pay 10 lakh rupees, the engineering college charge you 25-30 lakh rupees. So the incentive is not so high. Here it is lopsided. And because of which people do fall prey for such a thing. Like yesterday, the NTA director also said, please come back to us if you have anyone offering you this paper, which means he knows that the paper is being offered. Maybe correct paper, wrong paper, one doesn't know, but he knows that the paper is being offered and he is requesting or appealing to all the students to get back to him and complain to them instead of falling prey to that. The falling prey to that is, now imagine a financial incentive where you say, if I have a paper in my hand, I save 1 crore rupees for my family. What does the child do? For us to preach morals to him, and he's been cynical and seen a lot of integrity issues around him as a society, and for you to believe that the child would, take integrity as it is and not bother about the family, is again expecting too much when you're living in this kind of society. So those are issues that we need to be dealing with. How do you stop the imbalance of it? How do you ensure that there is not so much dependence where the fate of a child depends on a 3-hour examination and not the schooling system that you pass through? Because what you did was, because you wanted to empower the coaching system, you actually took away anything that you get out of your school education. Like if you're in Delhi, for example, you can be the state topper, but you still need to write a CUET examination. So what is it that the students studied till class 12th, which has become now zero? Because you might be a state topper, but you might still fail in the CUET examination and vice versa. Unless you bring in some kind of a balance in terms of the value for a school education versus the value of an entrance examination and merge it together, this will
But
continue.
Peri sir, if I may, the reason why most of these examinations have come in a centralized form is to say that all the problems that initially existed because of a decentralized examination system, for instance, school and education, state subject, you have different boards. Some are lenient, some are harsh. So, in order to ensure uniformity so that it is fair for all, comes CUET. NTA came with the purpose of conducting examinations properly to rule out any ambiguity. However, these very systems have failed.
No, I think Sanket, again, in every centralized power always thinks that the states are failed, so that's where I exist, right? You look at the examination itself, you go back to all data that you have in the system. The CBSE schools are about 12-13% in the country, and 87% are state board schools. But the 12-13% schools in the country, which are CBSE schools, claim 60% of the seats in IITs and IITs, triple IITs and AIMS and everything. Is that fair? Is it fair that a student who's studying in Tamil Nadu or in Karnataka or in Kerala or in West Bengal or in Northeast, who's studying in a state board school because he doesn't have access to CBSE school, is it fair that you deny him the right to get, lay claim on a central institution? See, the student is learning what is being taught. The student is not learning something beyond what is being taught. He's getting a score. He's being a state topper. But let's talk about Delhi for that matter. How is it that it is wrong for a child to study in a government school and be a state topper in CBSE board, mind you, but he cannot clear CUET because he can't go through the coaching? So this entire argument that's coming back saying that listen, it has to be normalized, it has to be equal to. It's not equal to all. 87% students who are from state boards are laying claim to only about 40% seats, and 12%, 30% CBSE schools are laying claim to 60% seats. Isn't that fair? Is it fair, rather?
Peri sir, now my question regarding the coaching. In 2024 NEET-UG and 2026 NEET-UG, the seeker cartel has been spoken about a lot. That a lot of these toppers are unusually high from seeker. Now, one reason can be that it is becoming a NEET-UG coaching hub, and that is why you have more toppers from there. The other is where you greet this high number of people coming from seeker with skepticism. How is it that it is so skewed in favor of seeker? Do you feel that the coaching cartel or the coaching mafia could have something to do with the manner in which these examinations are being conducted?
I don't have any doubt about that because, see, remember, the coaching cartels prosper only when the students succeed. And what we call in our industry, we call it topper farming, which means you produce one topper and farm it to about 10,000 students, right? So they need to have that kind of a result. Go back to 2024 when, because of Supreme Court, you actually had all this data coming back at you. There were 49 centers in Seeker in 2024, and about 27,000 students from Seeker took the NEET examination, which is 1.2% of the total exam takers in the country. But the number of seats that they laid claim to is close to about, government medical seats, is close to about 10%. So 1.2%, because they actually laid claim 650 plus score, when we looked at it, about 2,800 students of Seeker got 650 plus score, which enables them to get into government medical college. When you deal with that, and in all that year, we actually had about 30,000 in the open category, government medical college seats. Open category, I'm saying. In all, about 60,000, but open category is 30,000 seats. So what you have is 1.2% students are laying claim to about 2,800, 2,900 seats. Now, the coaching hubs is not just Seeker. It is there in Kota, it's there in Vijayawada, it's there in Hyderabad, and it's there in Kerala, and so on and so forth. But Seeker does dramatically differently. And now you sync that with the reports that come that in 24 also Seeker, there was a leakage news. In 26 also there is a leakage news from the Seeker thing only. We're not just talking of the result now. We're also talking of how the news emerges that in Seeker students had the 140 questions that guest paper that had is in Seeker. The students had access to 600 of the 720 marks even before they entered the examination hall. That's what the news reports claim. So you deal with the result and then you deal with the leakage reports that emerge from Seeker. there is absolutely something wrong. And if NTA doesn't sit through and analyze the data, like people like us do see the data and say there is something wrong happening out here. Because Kota should also perform as well if it's coaching hub. Kota also equally does well. Vijayawada should do well. Hyderabad should do well. But why only Sikar? Not that Sikar has cracked a magic thing which the others don't do. It is just that there is something else that is happening possibly in Sikar. And at least to set right those doubts, you must actually go after and understand what is happening in Sikar.
Peri sir, then in that case, is it okay to blame just a coaching mafia alone for these leaks in connivance with, say, some junior officials of the NTA? I'll give you a point which is being spoken about among the 23 lakh applicants and their families. Number one, this extremely magical ability of the NTA to conduct and release examination results along with election results. It happened in 2024, it has happened in 2026. I mean, amazing coincidence. So that the attention is completely on elections. There is no conversation about NTA results and thus a leak or a scam or whatever. So to say that this is secluded to one local corner in Sikar alone and there is no institutional rot at the NTA level, do you think will be difficult? And that is something which should be probed. After all, why no online examination? Why?
See, there are two different arguments. One is the computer-based test versus whatever, and two is the pen and paper thing, right? You make it computer-based test, Sanket, your number of test takers will come down from 20 lakhs to about 17, 18, 19 lakhs because a lot of people won't even appear of the examination. It's a call that we as a country have to decide whether it is fair, good, and all, right? The thing that for sure this particular guest paper that you're talking about has leaked from one of the exam setter. What happens is, Sanket, the people who are setting up papers, there are a bunch of people who are called in, they're asked to present questions and all. It goes into a pool. Now, the same people who are setting papers at some point in time join the coaching center also. They're employed. The coaching centers, what they do is they give greater incentive or greater monetary benefits to those people who actually were immediately setting up the exams. Right. So what you have is you actually have a person who set the, given a pool of questions, a bunch of questions, about 200, 300 of them into the exam pool, who actually is employed by you to set a guest paper. Now, what does the guest paper do? It creates a bunch of about 300-400 questions, of which this 150 that have been also given in the pool, also find a way into that 400 questions of guest paper. That is how this entire racket works. So what you have is an exam setter who is actually given a question in the actual NEET examination is giving a guest paper for the students in night before the examination. They're all locked in. They're asked to make the given a guest paper saying कि ये guest paper पढ़ लीजिएगा, इसमें से आपके पास आएंगे. Because they don't want to be caught red-handed, they give a larger pool of questions. And every time when the student answers it wrongly, then the student is told what is the correct answer and then they're prepared for that. So next day morning when you go to the examination hall, you actually know 150 of the 180 questions that are about to come, where you're also being corrected if you're given a wrong answer.
Now, my final question, Peri sir, do you feel that this exam must be conducted online, and why do you think it is not being conducted online despite sane advice?
So now again, Sanket, I won't call it a sane advice or non-sane advice. For me, any entrance examination for that matter, entrance exam per se, pushes yourself for transparency, but it is also unfair and unjust to people who cannot afford coaching or have no access to coaching. Because a lot of states, like if you go back to 24, there are 566 cities where there are exam centers, about 4,750 exam centers in 566 cities, of which we analyzed data. 225 of them had access to coaching, in the sense that the top 25 coaching institute, one of them was there, and 331 of them didn't have access to coaching. The 331 had a success rate of 11%. The 225 had a success rate of 89%. So access to coaching and affordability of coaching plays a big part in the success of into an entrance examination. Now, again, we as a country have to decide whether that's the way to go. And two, those people who are born in Mizoram, in Manipur and all, it's not their mistake that they are born there, that they don't have access to coaching, because of which they are denied a seat in AIMS. How do you solve this equity issue? How do you solve this fairness issue? Because every important government, and I'm using the word very carefully when I say important government, goes for transparency because we all know and we can justify that a 99 is bigger than 98. But how did you get the 98 as compared to someone who is sitting in Kota or Sikar and getting 99 is the question that we need to answer. So if a student in Manipur gets 85 marks and a student in Sikar gets 99 marks, I'll take the 85 mark student because he or she did not have access to coaching but still could get 85 marks. That's a question that we need to answer for ourselves as a society. So the reason, now coming back to the thing of why online and all, online will give you transparent examination, very clear. But there are cartels where there are papers, people who sit as a dummy candidate and answer on your behalf while you're sitting in front of a computer, mind you. So the rackets are there all over the place. It happened in JEE, it happened in BitSat also for that matter, where there are people, you're sitting in front of a computer and play acting as if you're answering the question, but someone is answering it from behind. Right? Because your access through a proxy is taken by someone else who's an expert. And that happens in some centers only. Right? Because the center is compromised, the center gives access through the proxy to a bunch of people who are experts. And this is proven multiple times over, by the way. Right? The simple thing that you need to do is, how do you ensure that you reduce the dependence on one single entrance examination to decide the fate of the student? When you do that, and you say this also has some kind of a weightage, this also has some kind of weightage, then people will have to do both ways. If you work only on the entrance examination, your school scores will fall. If you work only on school examination, the entrance exams will score. So a government school student will say, okay, I might not go for coaching, but I'll get 100% here. And the entrance exam guy will say, I'll get 100% here, I might actually. So there is some kind of a balance and equity that is brought into the system. Otherwise, when you say 3 years of your life will decide whatever, you would have studied for 18 years through the entire schooling system, but that is waste because 3 years will decide whether you will study and prosper in your life or not. It will always be too dependent on that, and then it will be open for malpractice.
All right, Maheshwar Peri, sir, thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for explaining this in great detail. Thank you.